once a year we'd have what was known in the family as the yearly beatings, where we'd be hit with a buckle of belts, we'd have our clothes ripped off us, and Rose would punch and scratch and kick and hit us with anything that was at hand. My brother was told to stay home from school, and when I come home from school later on, he'd been tied to the toilet seat in the bathroom, and when I looked at him, I didn't recognise his face. He'd been so much hurt, and she'd whipped him. And we were always told that it was for our own good, to teach us to be better and to have respect for people. And when the one time I had to stand in front of my dad, after Rose had hit me, I had marks on my neck where she had grabbed me and nearly choked me because she grabbed my throat and twisted the skin round, and I couldn't breathe. And my dad turned round to my stepmother and said, "If you're going to hit the children, make sure it doesn't show." Whenever I approached my father about the abuse that was happening to myself, my father would say, well, every family, every child are going through the same thing. You're making a fuss about nothing. It's for your own good. We're trying to help you and bring you up correctly, and that I shouldn't keep going on about it because nobody else does. And I remember I'd go to school and I'd see other children and I'd look at them, they'd be playing happy, and I just think, they do seem all right. Well, maybe I am just making a fuss about nothing. So then after that I kept quiet, and the only other time that the abuse was mentioned was when I was at St Paul's school, primary school, and Rose used to hit me and would mark me, and I was just told that I mustn't do PE. Well, this one time the teacher said, "No, you made me," and she must have noticed the marks on my body, because when I got home from school, there was a knock at the door, and it was a welfare worker. And she came in, and Rose was there. And I had to make them a cup of tea, and they were talking. And then when she left, I had the biggest hiding of my life from Rosemary. My stepmother, she cherished the home at 25 Cromwell Street. That was her everything. She would talk to my dad a lot. They were at times inseparable. And looking back now, when I was growing up, there was a lot of whispering and talking and planning and a lot of closed doors. They must have had a hold over each other. When I was 13, my stepmother said to me on one occasion that I was going to go out for a drink with her. By this time, I was also having to entertain gentlemen that come to the house. I remember she helped me put some makeup on. We went out to a pub just outside of Gloucester. Come the end of the evening, I remember being drunk. I couldn't walk straight, I couldn't see properly. And earlier on in the evening, I'd turn around to sort of talking to Rosemary, and she said, oh, you know, we'd be like mates, we'd go out together and do things together. And I thought, well, that'd be nice. Suddenly Dad appeared in the van, and he got out, and then Rosemary just turned on me. She said, you think I'm going to be your effing friend or mate? She said, well, you've got another thing coming. And she pulled me into the van by my hair, and she was hitting me and punching me, and I was crying. I was confused. I didn't have my faculties with me fully, and she was ripping my clothes off me, and then she tied my hands up and sexually assaulted me. My dad was in the back of the van to start with, and then he got in the front and was driving, and she was ridiculing me and laughing and punching and poking at me and saying horrible things to me. When we got back home, I was covered in blood, and I was told that I had to go into the bathroom and clean myself up. And I had to come out and just stand there in front of them. And she was just laughing at me. I just wanted to go to bed. I just wanted to go to bed and just want to go to sleep and just think it was a dream. I think it was a horrible dream. When I was 13, I was introduced to prostitution by my stepmother, Rosemary. Coloured men would come to the house at various times. I remember the first time when I had to go to bed with one of these gentlemen. I was undressed by my stepmother, and my father was in the room. It was a separate room. I was led into what we used to call my stepmother's best room. And in this room there was a double bed, a cabinet with drinks. There was a fur carpet on the floor and a lamp. There was a gentleman in there. The gentleman had sexual intercourse with me. I was then told to leave the room. And I had to sit down. I wasn't allowed to wash or get dressed. I had to wait for Rosemary to finish.